The Last Sanctuary. The Vraxian mining drone carved through what remained of the Rocky Mountains, its massive titanium drills pulverizing stone and precious minerals alike. Overseer Kralthus watched from his hovering command platform, 6 yellow eyes blinking in sequence as he dictated production quotas into his neural interface. The Vraxian Empire had controlled Earth for over 2 centuries, transforming the once vibrant planet into a resource extraction operation that fueled their expanding galactic dominion. Sector 12 yields exceeding expectations by 23%. Kralthus chittered, mandibles clicking with satisfaction. His assistant, a younger Vraxian named Zevnak, approached with a data slate. Overseer, we've detected unusual energy fluctuations in the subterranean levels of Section 47B, Zevnak reported. May require investigation. Kralthus dismissed the concern with a wave of his upper appendage. Likely residual radiation from the ancient human infrastructure. This planet has been cleansed of intelligent life since the Great Purge. The Emperor's archives are quite clear on this matter. But Zevnak persisted. The pattern appears artificial, Overseer. It bears signature characteristics of directed energy. 3 kilometers beneath the remains of Denver, in a vast underground complex that had once been a military research facility, Commander Mira Chen studied holographic projections of Vraxian movement patterns across the North American continent. At 35, she'd never seen the sky, born to parents who themselves had been born underground. Yet she led the last organized human resistance on Earth, approximately 1,200 souls who had survived through generations of careful planning, recycled resources, and absolute secrecy. Power fluctuations in residential Section 4 again, reported Chief Engineer Marcus Okafor. His face illuminated by the blue glow of ancient screens, kept functional through desperate ingenuity. We're pushing the fusion reactor beyond safe parameters. Mira nodded grimly. No choice. Without power, we die. Without resources, we die. Without a breakthrough, she didn't need to finish the thought. The underground complex, codenamed Sanctuary, had survived thanks to its original purpose, a doomsday facility designed to preserve human knowledge and genetic diversity. When the Vraxians arrived with their cleansing weapons, several thousand military personnel and civilian specialists had managed to seal themselves inside. For 2 centuries, they had lived in the shadows, keeping human civilization alive through oral histories, salvage technology, and careful genetic management to maintain a viable population. But now they faced extinction from system failures and resource depletion. Project Phoenix is our only chance. Mira addressed her council of section leaders gathered around the central planning table. Dr. Ishida has confirmed the schematics are authentic. Dr. Riot Ishida, their lead scientist, activated a holographic representation of what appeared to be a global network. The defense grid was Earth's last-ditch planetary shield system. Never deployed because the invasion came too quickly, but the infrastructure remains buried across 6 continents, dormant but potentially functional. And what good does a 200-year-old defense system do us now? Asked Security Chief Carmen Diaz, the skeptic of the group. The Vraxians are already here. It would give us control of orbital space, Mira replied firmly, and a fighting chance to contact the Exodus colonies, if they survived. The plan was audacious. Before the fall of Earth, 12 colony ships had launched toward distant star systems, carrying thousands of humans. The Vraxians claimed to have hunted them down, but had never provided proof. If any survived, activating the defense grid could send a signal beacon that might reach them. We need 3 key components, Dr. Ishida continued. The activation codes from the old Pentagon bunker, a quantum processing core to replace the deteriorated original, and access to one of the Vraxian communication relays to boost our signal strength. A suicide mission, Carmen stated flatly. A necessary risk, Mira countered. I'll lead the team myself. Preparation took weeks. The Resistance crafted radiation-resistant gear from salvaged materials, calibrated ancient weapon systems, and planned every detail of their journey. Mira selected her team carefully. Ray for his technical expertise, Carmen for her combat skills, Marcus for engineering, and Zara Williams, their best scout who had memorized every detail of surface maps passed down through generations. Remember, Mira told them the night before departure, none of us has ever seen the sky. The psychological impact alone might be disorienting, and the Vraxians have modified Earth's atmosphere to suit their biology. Oxygen levels are lower, and trace elements of their homeworld have been introduced. Marcus handed each team member an injector. This enzyme cocktail should help our bodies adjust temporarily. Side effects include possible hallucinations, so confirm everything you see with another team member. They ascended through narrow maintenance shafts, climbing steadily toward the surface using mechanical assistance only when absolutely necessary to avoid detection. After 12 hours of grueling progress, they reached the final barrier, a concealed hatch that hadn't been opened since their grandparents' time. Atmospheric readings check out, Marcus whispered, studying his handheld scanner. Radiation levels elevated but within tolerance with our gear. Mira took a deep breath. Open it. The hatch released with a painful screech of metal, and for the first time in her life, Mira saw stars. The night sky spread above them, vaster than any underground chamber, dotted with countless points of light. For a moment, all 5 humans stood transfixed, overwhelmed by the immensity. Focus, Mira finally managed, her voice tight. We have 4 hours until dawn. They moved across unfamiliar terrain, a landscape transformed by centuries of alien terraforming and mining. Where forests had once stood, barren plains stretched beneath an alien-tinted sky. They avoided Vraxian installations, using the cover of ridges and excavation pits to make their way toward the first objective, the Pentagon bunker. A drone patrol forced them to take cover in a collapsed building as they lay motionless. Zara noticed something unexpected, small plant-like structures growing through the ruins, but with bioluminescent properties. Life is adapting. Rai whispered in wonder, carefully collecting a specimen. Evolution continues despite everything they've done. They reached the Pentagon ruins before dawn, finding the bunker entrance partially collapsed but accessible. As Rai worked to bypass the ancient security systems, a Vraxian security shuttle passed overhead, sweeping the area with detection beams. They're searching for something, Carmen observed, readying her weapon. Work faster. The bunker's interior was a time capsule, untouched since the fall of humanity. Bodies of military personnel lay where they had fallen, now mere skeletons in tattered uniforms. Mira led them through darkened corridors to the command center, where Rai accessed the mainframe. The activation codes are intact, he confirmed after tense minutes of work. Downloading now. The ground suddenly trembled as explosions erupted above them. Carmen's scanner showed multiple Vraxian signatures converging on their position. They found us, she hissed. We need to move, now. As they raced back toward the entrance, the bunker shook with another impact. Part of the ceiling collapsed, separating Mira and Ray from the others. Find another way out. Mira shouted through the rubble. We'll rendezvous at Checkpoint Alpha. Mira and Ray found an emergency escape tunnel, emerging 2 kilometers from the bunker site. There was no sign of the others. As dawn broke over the horizon, the first sunrise either had ever witnessed, they saw Vraxian forces surrounding the bunker, methodically demolishing the structure. They're gone, Rai whispered, his face ashen. Mira's expression hardened. We continue the mission. The quantum processor is next, and we'll need to infiltrate the Vraxian mining facility to get it. For 3 days, they traveled by night, hiding during daylight hours. They witnessed the true extent of Earth's transformation. Vast open pit mines stretched to the horizon. Processing facilities belched toxic fumes into the atmosphere, and Vraxian settlements dotted the landscape, housing the alien overseers who managed the automated extraction operations. The mining facility loomed before them, a massive structure of alien architecture stretching hundreds of meters into the sky. Security was tight, but they had one advantage. The Vraxians believe humans extinct, making their security focused on preventing theft by rival alien factions, not infiltration by natives. We need disguises, Mira decided, observing the facility from a ridge. They targeted a small supply transport, ambushing the two Vraxian workers and taking their environment suits. The suits didn't fit properly, Vraxians being taller and more angular than humans, but in the chaotic environment of the facility, they might pass cursory inspection. Inside, they navigated through a bewildering maze of alien technology, following the schematics Rai had memorized. The processing center housed several quantum computing arrays, technology the Vraxians had absorbed from conquered species. That one, Rai pointed to a smaller unit, portable enough for our needs and powerful enough to run the grid. As they worked to disconnect the device, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Flashing lights bathed the corridors in pulsing crimson. That's not for us, Mira realized, checking the security feeds. Something else triggered it. On the screens, they watched as a group of humans fought their way through the lower levels. Carmen, Marcus, and Zara had survived and staged their own infiltration. But they were surrounded, fighting desperately against overwhelming odds. They're creating a diversion, Ray understood suddenly. They knew we'd be here. Mira's face grew solemn. Then we don't waste their sacrifice. Get the processor. We move now. They secured the quantum device and made their way toward an exit when a familiar face appeared before them. Zara, separated from the others, her expression pained and desperate. Mira, thank God, she gasped, clutching a wound in her side. The others, they didn't make it. Mira embraced her. We have the processor. We can still complete the mission. But as they reached the facility perimeter, Zara suddenly pulled away, drawing a weapon, not of human design, but Vraxian manufacture. I'm sorry, Mira, she said, her voice breaking. They found our colony 6 months ago. They have my family. I had no choice. The betrayal hit harder than any physical blow. Before Mira could respond, Vraxian security forces surrounded them, led by Overseer Kralthas himself. The last humans, he chittered, mandibles clicking in excitement. The Emperor will be most pleased. Your species was declared extinct 2 centuries ago. Your continued existence represents a significant historical correction. As they were taken into custody, Mira locked eyes with Raya. A silent message passed between them. This wasn't over. Not while they still breathed. Not while humanity still had a chance. In the darkness of space, beyond the reach of Vraxian sensors, something was stirring. A signal, weak but detectable, had reached a distant star system where the descendants of the Exodus ships had built a civilization in exile. Humanity was about to return to its birthplace. Reclamation. The detention cell aboard the Vraxian command station was designed for non-human prisoners, its atmosphere tinged with trace elements toxic to human physiology. Mira felt her lungs burning with each breath despite the protective measures in her bloodstream. Across from her, Rai sat motionless, eyes closed in meditation or unconsciousness, she couldn't tell which. 2 Vraxian guards chittered outside the energy barrier, their conversation rendered partially intelligible by the translation implants Mira's people had developed over generations of studying their oppressors. More of them hiding beneath the surface. Emperor demands complete extermination this time. Fleet already dispatched from homeworld. Mira processed this information with growing dread. The Vraxians now knew humans still existed on Earth, and they would stop at nothing to finish what they started 2 centuries ago. She thought of sanctuary, of the children who had never seen sunlight, of the elders who kept human culture alive through oral tradition. They would all perish if she failed. The door to the detention block slid open, revealing Overseer Kralthas accompanied by Zora, her face hollow with shame. Your accomplice has been most cooperative, Kralthas announced, his translation unit converting his chittering speech to harsh, mechanical English. The location of your subterranean dwelling is known to us. Cleansing operations commence in 12 hours. Mira stared at Zora, finding no hatred in her heart, only pity. They promised to spare your family, she guessed. Zora nodded slightly, tears streaming down her face. The Vraxians don't keep promises to species they consider vermin. Mira said softly, "You've doomed us all for nothing." Something flashed in Zora's eyes. Realization, perhaps, or resolve. Her hand moved imperceptibly toward her belt. Krelthes turned to leave. "Enjoy your final hours, human. Your kind's remarkable persistence ends today." As the overseer moved away, Zara suddenly lunged forward, pressing something against the control panel of their cell. The energy barrier flickered momentarily. "For what it's worth," she whispered urgently, "I'm sorry." Alarms blared as Zora was tackled by Vraxian guards. In the confusion, Mira pulled Ray to his feet, and they slipped through the destabilized barrier, grabbing weapons from shocked guards as they fled down the corridor. "Security breach in Detention Block 7. Announced the station's automated system. All personnel to combat stations." "What's happening?" Ray gasped as they ducked into a maintenance shaft. Zara had a change of heart. Mira replied grimly, "We need to find the communication relay and complete the mission before they recapture us." The command station orbited Earth in geosynchronous position above the main Vraxian settlement. Through viewport windows, Mira caught glimpses of her homeworld, a sight no human in her lineage had seen in generations. Once blue and green, Earth now appeared sickly brown and gray, its atmosphere hazy with industrial pollution. They navigated through service tunnels, avoiding patrols and using Ray's prodigious memory of the station schematics they'd studied before the mission. The communication hub occupied the upper level, a vast chamber of quantum entanglement transmitters that allowed instantaneous communication across the Vraxian Empire. There, Ray pointed to an auxiliary control station. "If I can access that terminal, I can upload the defense grid activation codes and broadcast the signal to any human colony simultaneously." "How long will you need?" 5 minutes to bypass security, another 3 to configure the broadcast." "You've got 4 minutes total," Mira decided, checking her stolen weapon. "I'll hold them off as long as I can." Ray worked frantically at the alien console while Mira secured the entrance. The first Vraxian security team arrived within minutes, mandibles flaring in aggression as they spotted the humans. Mira fired methodically, each shot finding its mark with precision born of desperate necessity. "Progress," she called over her shoulder. "Security bypassed," Rai replied, fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "Configuring broadcast now. The defense grid activation sequence is ready." But what? "Someone needs to remain here to maintain the connection. The Vraxians will cut it remotely otherwise." The implication was clear, a suicide mission for whoever stayed behind. Before Mira could respond, the station shuddered violently, knocking both of them off balance. Through the viewports, streaks of light appeared in Earth's orbit. Weapons fire. "What the hell is that?" Mira gasped. Ray's eyes widened as he checked the sensors. Ships, dozens of them. Non-Vraxian design. The communication console suddenly crackled with a transmission. In English. "Attention Earth survivors. This is Admiral Elena Reyes of the United Earth Fleet. If you're receiving this, stand by for extraction. Reclamation has begun." For a moment, both Mira and Ray stood frozen in shock. Then reality snapped back into focus as more Vraxian security forces converged on their position. "Activate the grid now," Mira ordered, returning fire. "I'll hold them here." "Complete the mission." Ray hesitated only briefly before nodding. His fingers flew across the console, initiating the sequence that would awaken Earth's long-dormant defense system. Across the planet, buried installations hummed to life, their power signatures suddenly visible on the station's monitoring systems. Overseer Krelthes himself appeared at the far end of the corridor, flanked by elite guards. "Stop them," he shrieked, his composed demeanor shattered by panic. "The Emperor's will must be preserved." A brilliant blue energy field suddenly enveloped Earth, emanating from dozens of activation points across the continents. The defense grid, designed 2 centuries ago as humanity's last hope, had finally awakened. Its first action was precise and devastating. Every Vraxian installation on the planet's surface was simultaneously targeted by focused energy beams. The command station rocked with explosions as the human fleet engaged the orbiting Vraxian vessels. Through the chaos, a boarding party of armored soldiers breached the communication hub. Humans wearing advanced combat suits bearing the insignia of the Exodus colonies. Commander Chen called their leader, raising her visor to reveal a face that could have been Mira's distant cousin. "I'm Captain Jana Wong, 4th Reclamation Force. We've come to take back what's ours." The battle for Earth lasted 7 days. The Vraxian occupation forces, unprepared for an assault from a supposedly extinct species, fought with increasing desperation as human ships secured orbital superiority. On the ground, the resistance emerged from Sanctuary to join the fight, their generations of planning finally bearing fruit. Mira stood on a hillside overlooking what had once been Denver, watching shuttles land with the first wave of returning colonists. Beside her, Admiral Rice, a woman whose ancestors had fled Earth 2 centuries ago, surveyed the scared landscape. "It will take generations to heal what they've done to our world," the Admiral observed. "The terraforming damage, the resource extraction, the atmospheric contamination. But we have generations now," Mira replied. "Something we didn't have a week ago." The Exodus colonies had not only survived but thrived, establishing a confederation of 12 worlds. They had never forgotten Earth, passing down coordinates and history through the centuries, waiting for the right moment to return. When the defense grid's signal had reached them, a beacon indicating survivors still existed, they had launched the reclamation fleet immediately. "Your people preserve something more valuable than the land," Admiral Rice said, gesturing toward a group of children from Sanctuary experiencing their first rainfall. Faces turned upward in wonder. "You kept humanity's spirit alive under impossible conditions. That resilience is what will rebuild this world." In the distance, a Vraxian mining installation was being dismantled, its components repurposed for the first human settlement, to be built on the surface in 2 centuries. The occupiers who had survived the liberation were being contained in designated zones while humanity decided their fate. Overseer Krell Thez, now prisoner Krell Thez, was brought before Mira and the Admiral under heavy guard. His once impressive stature seemed diminished, his chitinous exoskeleton dulled. "You realize the Emperor will send another fleet," he warned, mandibles clicking nervously. "What you've accomplished is merely a temporary setback for the Vraxian Empire." "Perhaps," Admiral Rice acknowledged, "but you made a fundamental miscalculation about humans." "And what is that?" Krell Thez demanded. Mira answered for her. "You thought exterminating most of us would end humanity. Instead, it only ensured that those who survived, both here and among the stars, would never, ever stop fighting to reclaim what's ours." As the sun set over the liberated landscape, the first new trees were being planted in Earth's soil. Saplings grown from preserved seeds kept safe in Sanctuary's genetic vaults for 2 centuries. Humanity had returned to its birthplace, not just to reclaim it, but to restore it. And this time, they were here to stay.